Hello, beautiful soul. I want you to take a deep breath with me right now. Just breathe in slowly, and as you breathe out, let your shoulders drop. Let yourself settle into this moment. You're here because something in your heart is calling for change, for healing, for answers. You're here because you've been hurt, and part of you is wondering if you should go back to someone who caused you pain. I see you. I feel the confusion in your heart, the way love and pain have become so tangled together that you can't tell where one ends and the other begins. You might be sitting there right now, phone in your hand, wondering if you should send that text. You might be replaying conversations in your mind, thinking about all the good times, wondering if this time could be different. Your heart is tender, and that tenderness is not a weakness. It's one of your greatest gifts. But today, we're going to talk about something that might feel uncomfortable at first, yet will set you free in ways you can't yet understand. We're going to talk about why returning to someone who already broke you is not love. It's fear. And you, precious one, were not born to live in fear. You were born to flourish, to be cherished, to experience the kind of love that lifts you up rather than tears you down. The path that brought you here hasn't been easy. You've loved with your whole heart, haven't you? You've given pieces of yourself, hoping that your love would be enough to heal someone else's brokenness. You've made excuses for behavior that hurt you, convinced yourself that the pain was temporary, that underneath it all, this person really loved you. And when they left, or when you finally found the strength to walk away, you felt that familiar ache, not just of missing them, but of feeling incomplete without them. This feeling of incompleteness is what brings so many of us back to situations that harm us. We mistake intensity for love, chaos for passion, and need for connection. But love, real love, doesn't break you into pieces and then ask you to be grateful for the scattered remains. Love doesn't make you question your worth or walk on eggshells. Love doesn't leave you feeling empty and desperate. The universe has brought you to this moment because you're ready to hear a different truth. You're ready to understand that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. You're ready to learn that you can love someone and still choose not to return to them. You're ready to discover that your worth isn't determined by someone else's ability to see it. Right now, your heart might be arguing with these words. That's okay. The part of you that wants to go back, that believes things could be different this time, that part is scared. It's scared of being alone, scared of starting over, scared that maybe this is the best love you'll ever find. But I want you to know something. That scared part of you is not your truth. Your truth is that you are worthy of love that doesn't hurt, relationships that don't require you to lose yourself, and connections that make you feel more like who you really are, not less. You see, when we return to someone who has already shown us their capacity to break us, we're not being hopeful, we're being habitual. We're choosing the familiar over the unknown, even when the familiar brings us pain. This isn't about being weak or foolish. This is about being human, about the way our hearts and minds have been conditioned to believe that love is supposed to hurt, that struggle means it's real, that if we just try hard enough, we can change someone else. But here's what I know to be true after years of watching beautiful souls like you find their way back to themselves. You cannot love someone into loving you the way you deserve. You cannot heal someone who doesn't want to be healed. You cannot change someone who sees nothing wrong with breaking your heart again and again. What you can do is choose a different path. What you can do is turn that incredible capacity for love toward yourself. What you can do is trust that the universe has something better waiting for you, something that won't require you to break yourself into smaller pieces to fit into someone else's limited space. Understanding why we find ourselves in these patterns isn't about judgment or shame. It's about compassion, deep, tender compassion for the parts of ourselves that learn to accept less than we deserve. Most of us learned very early in life what love looked like, and often, those early lessons weren't about the healthy, nurturing kind of love we all need. We learned that love was conditional, that it had to be earned, that it could be taken away if we weren't good enough, quiet enough, perfect enough. When we're children, we don't have the ability to understand that the adults around us might be operating from their own wounds and limitations. We simply accept what we're shown as truth. If love came with criticism, we learned that criticism was part of love. If love was unpredictable, we learned to always be on guard, always trying to prevent the next disappointment. If love was withdrawn when we expressed our needs, we learned to make ourselves smaller, to need less, to ask for less. These early patterns don't just disappear when we become adults. They live in our bodies, in our automatic responses, in the way we choose partners and navigate relationships. When someone treats us poorly, there's often a part of us that recognizes this treatment, not because it's right, but because it's familiar. And our unconscious mind, always seeking what it knows, draws us toward what feels familiar, even when what feels familiar isn't what serves us. This is why we might find ourselves attracted to people who are emotionally unavailable, who blow hot and cold, who keep us guessing about where we stand. This is why we might feel bored by people who are consistent and kind, mistaking their stability for lack of passion. This is why we might interpret chaos as chemistry and mistake anxiety for excitement. The person who broke you likely activated these old patterns in ways that felt both terrible and familiar. They probably gave you just enough to keep you hoping, just enough kindness mixed in with the carelessness to make you believe that if you could just figure out the right combination of words or actions, you could unlock their capacity for real love. But what you were really trying to do was solve an old puzzle, one that was created long before this person ever entered your life. When we keep returning to someone who hurts us, we're often trying to rewrite an old story. We're trying to prove to ourselves that we're worthy of love by getting love from someone who can't give it. We're trying to heal an old wound by staying in a situation that keeps reopening it. We're trying to feel safe by controlling something that is fundamentally unpredictable. But healing doesn't come from getting someone else to love us differently. Healing comes from learning to love ourselves so completely that we naturally move away from anything that doesn't honor that love. It comes from understanding that we don't need to prove our worth to anyone, not even to ourselves. Our worth is inherent, built into the very fabric of who we are. This pattern of returning to what breaks us isn't really about the other person at all. It's about our relationship with ourselves. When we deeply know our worth, when we truly understand that we deserve kindness, respect, and genuine love, we don't find ourselves drawn back to situations that provide the opposite. When we trust our own inner voice, we don't need someone else's approval to know that we matter. The beautiful truth is that once you see these patterns clearly, once you understand how they developed and why they persist, you have the power to choose something different. You have the power to break the cycle, not by changing someone else, but by changing your relationship with yourself. You are not broken, even though someone broke your heart. You are not damaged, even though someone damaged your trust. You are not unworthy of love, even though someone was unable to love you well. You are a magnificent being who has simply been operating from old programming that no longer serves you, and old programming can be changed. The very fact that you're here, listening to these words, questioning whether you should return to someone who hurt you, shows that something in you knows you deserve better. That knowing is your inner wisdom speaking, and it's time to listen. It's time to trust that voice that tells you that real love doesn't hurt this way, that healthy relationships don't require you to lose yourself, that the right person for you won't break you and then ask you to come back for more. Your worth isn't up for debate. It's not dependent on someone else's ability to see it, appreciate it, or treat it with care. Your worth is a fundamental truth, as constant as the sun rising each morning, as reliable as your own heartbeat. You were born worthy, and nothing that has happened to you, nothing that anyone has done or failed to do, has changed that essential truth about who you are. When you really understand this, when you feel it in your bones rather than just thinking it in your mind, everything changes. You stop trying to convince people of your value and start living from it. You stop accepting crumbs and start expecting the full meal. You stop making excuses for people who treat you poorly and start gravitating toward those who see your light and want to add to it rather than dim it. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by force. It happens through gentle, consistent choices to treat yourself with the love and respect you've been seeking from others. It happens through small, daily actions that reinforce your worth rather than question it. It happens through learning to be as kind to yourself as you would be to someone you truly care about. When you look in the mirror, what do you see? When you speak to yourself, what tone do you use? When you make mistakes, how do you respond to yourself? When you have needs, do you honor them or dismiss them? The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you. When you cherish yourself, you naturally attract people who will cherish you too. This doesn't mean you become selfish or demanding. It means you become discerning. It means you learn the difference between someone who is going through a difficult time and someone who consistently makes you feel small. It means you understand that everyone has flaws, but not everyone's flaws include breaking your heart repeatedly. There's something I want you to pay attention to right now, something that's been trying to communicate with you all along, but you may have learned to ignore it. It's your body, this wise, intelligent vessel that carries your soul through this world. Your body has been your faithful companion through every experience, every heartbreak, every moment of joy. And your body knows things that your mind sometimes tries to talk you out of. When you were with the person who broke you, what did your body tell you? Did your stomach tighten when they walked into the room? Did your shoulders tense when you heard their voice? Did you find yourself holding your breath, waiting for the next harsh word or dismissive gesture? These weren't random physical responses. They were your body's way of saying, "This doesn't feel safe." Your body is constantly receiving information from your environment and translating it into physical sensations. When you're around people who truly care for you, who see and appreciate who you are, your body relaxes. Your breathing deepens. There's a sense of ease that settles into your muscles. You feel at home in your own skin because you're truly at home with this person. But when you're around someone who consistently hurts you, even if they're not actively being hurtful in that moment, your body remembers. It remembers the last time they spoke to you with contempt. It remembers the way they made you feel small or unimportant. It remembers the stress hormones that flooded your system during arguments that went nowhere, conversations where you felt unheard, moments when you questioned your own reality. This is your body's intelligence at work. Your nervous system doesn't lie to you the way your mind sometimes does. Your mind can rationalize, can make excuses, can focus on potential rather than reality. Your mind can say, "But they said they're sorry," or "But they can be so wonderful when they want to be." Your body, however, responds to what is actually happening, not what you hope might happen someday. Learning to listen to your body's wisdom is one of the most important skills you can develop. When you walk into a room and immediately feel your energy drain, that's information. When someone's presence makes you feel anxious or on edge, even when they're being pleasant, that's your body telling you something important. When you notice yourself becoming smaller, quieter, less yourself around certain people, your body is showing you that this relationship is not nourishing your soul. Your intuition speaks through your body. That gut feeling that something isn't right, that's not paranoia or insecurity. That's ancient wisdom operating through your physical form. Throughout human history, our survival has depended on our ability to sense danger, to recognize when something in our environment threatens our well-being. This capacity hasn't disappeared just because we live in modern times. It's still there, still working, still trying to protect you. When you ignore these body signals, when you override your intuition in favor of what seems logical or what others expect of you, you're essentially disconnecting from your own inner guidance system. You're choosing to trust external voices over your own inner knowing. This disconnection is often what leads us back to situations that hurt us, because we've learned to distrust the very system designed to keep us safe. The beautiful thing about your body's wisdom is that it's always available to you. Right now, as you think about the person who broke you, what happens in your body? Do you feel a sinking sensation in your stomach? Do your muscles tense? Do you notice your breathing becoming shallow? These sensations are gifts. They're your body's way of reminding you what it feels like to be in the energy of someone who doesn't cherish you. Now think about someone who makes you feel truly safe and loved. Notice how different your body feels. Notice the softness that enters your muscles, the way your breathing naturally deepens. This is what it feels like to be in the presence of healthy love. This is your body's way of saying, yes, this feels right. Your body also holds the capacity for healing. Every cell in your body is constantly regenerating, constantly working to restore balance and health. When you remove yourself from harmful situations, when you stop exposing yourself to the stress of toxic relationships, your body begins to heal. The chronic tension starts to release, your sleep improves, your digestion settles, your immune system strengthens. This physical healing supports your emotional healing. When your body feels safe, your heart can open to new possibilities. When your nervous system isn't constantly on high alert, you have more energy available for joy, for creativity, for building the kind of life you truly want to live. But here's what I know happens for so many beautiful souls like you. Even when your body is giving you clear signals, even when every cell in your being is telling you to stay away from someone who hurts you, there's something that pulls you back. There's a force stronger than logic, stronger than self-preservation, that whispers, maybe this time will be different. This pull isn't love, precious one. This pull is what happens when our need for love gets tangled up with our earliest experiences of attachment. When we were very young, our survival depended on maintaining connection with our caregivers, even when those caregivers were inconsistent, unpredictable, or harmful. Our young minds couldn't process that sometimes the people we depend on for love and safety might also be the source of our pain. So we learned to adapt. We learned to hold on tighter when someone pulled away. We learned to blame ourselves when someone treated us poorly. We learned that love comes with pain, that chaos might mean passion, that if someone can hurt us deeply, they must also be very important to us. This creates what we now understand as a trauma bond, an intense attachment that forms not in spite of the pain, but because of it. When someone hurts us and then shows us kindness, when they create the problem and then offer the solution, our brain releases chemicals that create a powerful sense of connection. It's not unlike what happens with addiction. The cycle of pain and relief creates a neurological pattern that feels like love but is actually dependency. Understanding this doesn't make you weak or broken. It makes you human. It means you experienced something that your beautiful, adaptable brain tried to make sense of in the only way it knew how. You survived by learning to find connection, even in harmful circumstances, and that adaptation served a purpose at the time. But what once protected you may now be limiting you. The patterns that helped you survive childhood or previous relationships may be keeping you trapped in cycles that no longer serve your highest good. The good news is that your brain, this remarkable organ that created these patterns, also has the capacity to create new ones. Every time you choose not to respond to that pull, every time you feel the urge to reach out to someone who hurt you and choose not to, you're creating a new neural pathway. Every time you treat yourself with kindness instead of criticism, every time you choose your own well-being over someone else's comfort, you're literally rewiring your brain for healthier patterns. This process takes time and patience with yourself. Those old patterns didn't develop overnight, and they won't disappear overnight either. But each time you make a choice that honors your worth, each time you listen to your body's wisdom instead of your mind's rationalizations, you're moving in the direction of freedom. One of the hardest parts of breaking this cycle is learning the difference between forgiveness and returning. Your tender heart wants to forgive, and that's beautiful. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. It's the release of resentment and anger that otherwise would poison your own well-being. But forgiveness doesn't mean pretending that harmful behavior was okay. It doesn't mean opening yourself up to be hurt again. It doesn't mean that boundaries are unnecessary. You can forgive someone completely and still choose not to have them in your life. You can wish them well and still recognize that they're not good for you. You can have compassion for their struggles and still prioritize your own healing. Forgiveness and wisdom can coexist beautifully. When you choose not to return to someone who broke you, you're not being vengeful or unforgiving. You're being wise. You're choosing to learn from experience rather than repeat it. You're choosing to trust your body's signals and your intuition's guidance. You're choosing to believe that you deserve better, even when that better hasn't shown up yet. The grief that comes with this choice is real and valid. When we let go of someone we loved, even someone who hurt us, we're not just losing them, we're losing all the hopes and dreams we attached to that relationship. We're letting go of the story we told ourselves about who they could become, about how things could change, about the happy ending we believed was possible if we just tried hard enough. This grief deserves your gentleness. It deserves your compassion. You're not weak for feeling sad about losing someone who wasn't good for you. You're human for mourning the loss of possibility, for feeling the emptiness where hope used to live. This sadness is part of your healing, not a sign that you're making the wrong choice. Allow yourself to feel whatever comes up without judging it. If you feel angry, let yourself feel angry. If you feel sad, let yourself feel sad. If you feel relief mixed with guilt, let yourself feel that too. All of these emotions are part of the complex process of untangling yourself from patterns that no longer serve you. Be especially gentle with yourself when the guilt arises, that voice that says you're being too harsh, too unforgiving, too selfish. That voice often sounds like love, but it's really fear dressed up in compassionate clothing. Real love, the kind you deserve, doesn't ask you to sacrifice your well-being for someone else's comfort. You didn't break anything by recognizing that someone couldn't love you the way you needed to be loved. You didn't fail by admitting that your love alone wasn't enough to heal someone else's wounds. You didn't give up too easily by choosing to protect yourself from further harm. You made a brave choice to honor your own worth, and that choice deserves celebration, not criticism. The little one inside you, the part that learned to accept love that hurt, needs your tenderness now more than ever. That part of you is scared and confused. It doesn't understand why you would walk away from someone who sometimes showed love, even if that love came wrapped in pain. This inner child needs you to be the loving, protective adult that perhaps was missing in those early years. Speak to that frightened part of yourself with the same gentleness you would use with any scared child. Let that part know that it's safe now, that you're strong enough to choose better, that it doesn't have to settle for love that hurts anymore. Reassure that tender part of your heart that walking away from pain isn't giving up on love. It's making space for real love to enter. This journey of choosing yourself, of refusing to return to what breaks you, requires something that may feel foreign at first. It requires you to become your own best friend, your own loving parent, your own fierce protector. For so long, you may have been looking outside yourself for validation, for love, for the sense that you matter. But the foundation of all healthy relationships, the source of all lasting happiness, begins with the relationship you have with yourself. Building a foundation of self-love isn't about becoming narcissistic or thinking you're better than others. It's about developing a steady, reliable relationship with yourself that doesn't depend on external circumstances. It's about learning to speak to yourself with kindness, to treat yourself with respect, to prioritize your well-being not from a place of selfishness, but from a place of wisdom. Start each morning by looking at yourself in the mirror, really looking, not just checking your appearance, but connecting with the soul looking back at you. This might feel uncomfortable at first. Many of us have learned to avoid our own gaze, to focus on our flaws, to see ourselves through critical eyes. But your eyes are windows to your soul, and your soul deserves to be acknowledged with love. When you look in that mirror, try saying something kind to yourself. It might feel silly at first, especially if you're not used to speaking to yourself with tenderness. Start simple. Good morning, beautiful. I see you. You matter. I'm glad you're here. These aren't empty phrases. They're acts of revolution against every voice that ever told you that you weren't enough. Notice what happens in your body when you speak to yourself with kindness versus when you speak to yourself with criticism. Notice how your shoulders relax when you offer yourself encouragement, how your breathing deepens when you treat yourself as a beloved friend. Your body responds to self-love just as it responds to love from others, because at the deepest level, your nervous system can't tell the difference between genuine love from yourself and genuine love from another person. Throughout your day, pay attention to the voice in your head, not to judge it, but to become aware of it. Is it kind or critical? Is it encouraging or discouraging? Would you speak to a dear friend the way you speak to yourself? If the answer is no, then it's time to change that internal dialogue. You deserve the same compassion from yourself that you so freely give to others. When you make a mistake, instead of attacking yourself with harsh words, try responding with curiosity and gentleness. That didn't go as planned. What can I learn from this? I'm human, and humans make mistakes. What do I need right now to feel better? This shift from self-attack to self-compassion creates an internal environment where healing can happen, where growth is possible, where you feel safe to be imperfect and still worthy of love. Self-love also means paying attention to your needs and honoring them. When you're tired, rest. When you're hungry, nourish yourself with food that makes your body feel good. When you're overwhelmed, give yourself permission to step back and breathe. When you're sad, allow yourself to feel that sadness without trying to fix it immediately or judge yourself for having it. Your needs aren't inconveniences to be managed. They're important information about what you require to thrive. Learning to honor your needs, especially after being in a relationship where your needs were dismissed or minimized, is a radical act of self-reclamation. It's your way of saying to yourself and to the world, I matter. My well-being matters. I deserve to have my needs met. Create rituals that nourish your soul. Maybe it's a warm bath with candles after a difficult day. Maybe it's dancing to your favorite music in your living room. Maybe it's writing in a journal, taking walks in nature. or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea and allowing yourself to just be. These aren't luxuries. They're necessities for a soul that's learning to love itself back to wholeness. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small they might seem. Did you choose not to respond to a text from someone who hurt you? Celebrate that choice. Did you speak up for yourself when someone dismissed your feelings? Acknowledge your courage. Did you choose to stay home and rest instead of forcing yourself to be social when you didn't feel up to it? Honor that self-care. These moments of self-love and self-respect are building blocks. Each one strengthens your foundation, makes you more solid in your sense of worth, more clear about what you will and won't accept in your life. This isn't about becoming rigid or closed off. It's about becoming rooted in your own value so that you can share your love from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. As you strengthen this foundation of self-love, you'll naturally begin to set boundaries, not from a place of anger or defensiveness, but from a place of clarity and self-respect. Boundaries aren't walls designed to keep love out. They're loving guidelines that teach others how to treat you while protecting your energy and peace of mind. Setting boundaries can feel scary, especially if you've learned that your worth depends on being agreeable, on keeping others happy, on never saying no. But boundaries aren't mean or selfish. They're honest communications about what works for you and what doesn't. They're ways of taking responsibility for your own well-being instead of expecting others to read your mind or automatically know what you need. A boundary might sound like, I don't feel comfortable discussing my personal life with you. I need some space to think about this before I respond. I won't continue this conversation if you continue to speak to me that way. I've decided not to lend money to friends and family. These aren't attacks on the other person. They're clear statements about your own limits and needs. When you first start setting boundaries, you might encounter resistance. People who are used to having unlimited access to your time, energy, or resources may not appreciate the new guidelines. Some might try to make you feel guilty for having needs. Others might test your boundaries to see if you really mean what you say. This resistance doesn't mean your boundaries are wrong. It often means they're necessary. The people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries, even if they don't fully understand them. They'll be willing to adjust their behavior because they value your relationship and want you to feel comfortable. The people who consistently push against your boundaries, who make you feel bad for having them, who try to convince you that your needs don't matter. These people are showing you exactly why those boundaries are needed. Remember that boundaries aren't just about other people, they're also about yourself. Maybe you need to set a boundary around how much time you spend scrolling through social media because it affects your mood. Maybe you need to set a boundary around staying up too late because it impacts your energy the next day. Maybe you need to set a boundary around how much you take on because you have a tendency to overcommit and then feel resentful. These self-boundaries are acts of kindness toward yourself. They're ways of protecting your future self from the consequences of choices that don't serve your well-being. They're recognition that your energy is precious and finite, and that you get to choose how to spend it. Boundaries also include energetic protection. When you're healing from someone who broke you, you might find yourself more sensitive to negative energy, more affected by other people's moods and dramas. This sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's often a sign that your intuitive abilities are strengthening, that you're becoming more attuned to the energy around you. Learning to protect your energy is crucial during this healing process. This might mean limiting time with people who drain you, even if they're family or old friends. It might mean avoiding places or situations that don't feel good to your soul. It might mean saying no to social events when you need time alone to recharge. These choices aren't antisocial. They're wise investments in your emotional and spiritual health. As you practice setting and maintaining boundaries, you'll notice something beautiful happening. You'll start to feel more solid in yourself, more clear about who you are and what you want. You'll stop feeling like you need to apologize for taking up space in the world. You'll begin to trust that you can handle whatever responses your boundaries might provoke, because your relationship with yourself has become strong enough to weather other people's reactions. This newfound strength and clarity naturally leads you forward into a different way of being in the world. You're no longer the person who was broken by someone else's inability to love you well. You're becoming someone who knows her worth, who trusts her intuition, who chooses relationships that add to her life rather than subtract from it. Moving forward doesn't mean you have to forget what happened to you. It doesn't mean you have to pretend that being hurt doesn't matter. What it means is that you refuse to let that experience define your future. You take the lessons without carrying the bitterness. You honor the growth that came from the pain without staying attached to the pain itself. This is what wisdom looks like: the ability to transform experience into understanding, to let your wounds become sources of strength rather than sources of limitation. Every person who has ever hurt you has also taught you something valuable about yourself, about what you want and don't want in your life, about your own capacity for resilience and growth. The person who broke you taught you about your own strength. They showed you that you can survive heartbreak and come out on the other side. They revealed patterns and beliefs that were ready to be healed. They gave you the opportunity to choose yourself in a way you might never have learned to do otherwise. This doesn't make what they did okay, but it does make it meaningful. Now you get to use that wisdom to create something beautiful. You get to approach new relationships with clearer eyes and better boundaries. You get to recognize red flags that you might have missed before. You get to trust your body's signals and your intuition's guidance. You get to choose people who see your worth and treat it with care. This doesn't mean you'll be perfect in your future choices. Healing isn't about becoming invulnerable or never making mistakes again. It's about becoming wise enough to learn quickly, strong enough to course correct when needed, and loving enough toward yourself to forgive your human imperfections. As you move forward, trust that the universe has plans for you that are bigger and more beautiful than anything you've yet imagined. Trust that your willingness to heal, to grow, to choose better for yourself is preparing you for blessings that you can't yet see. Trust that every step you take away from what hurts you is a step toward what will heal and fulfill you. The love you've been seeking from others, that unconditional, nurturing, uplifting love, exists. It exists first within you, as you learn to be your own best friend and fiercest advocate. And as you embody that love for yourself, you'll naturally attract others who can love you in the same healthy, life-giving way. You might worry that setting standards, having boundaries, refusing to accept less than you deserve will make you alone. But the truth is that being alone while honoring your worth is infinitely better than being with someone while betraying it. And when you're truly alone, not lonely, but peacefully, contentedly alone, you create space for the right people to enter your life. The right person for you won't want to break you. They won't see your sensitivity as something to exploit or your love as something to take advantage of. They'll cherish your tender heart and want to protect it. They'll add to your sense of self rather than subtract from it. They'll make you feel more like yourself, not less. This person might not look like what you thought you wanted. They might not have the intensity that you confused with passion, the drama that you mistook for depth. They might offer something much more precious: consistency, kindness, respect, genuine care for your well-being. They might love you in a way that feels surprisingly peaceful, surprisingly safe. Don't be afraid of love that doesn't hurt. Don't mistake peace for boredom or kindness for weakness. Real love doesn't need chaos to prove its strength. Real love doesn't need you to suffer to prove your devotion. Real love is like sunlight, warm, consistent, life-giving, natural. My beautiful friend, you are standing at a crossroads right now. Behind you is the familiar path of returning to what breaks you, of hoping that somehow this time will be different, of choosing the painful known over the hopeful unknown. Ahead of you is a path you've never walked before, the path of trusting your worth, of honoring your needs, of believing that you deserve love that doesn't hurt. I know which path calls to your soul, even if your heart is still scared to trust it. That knowing inside you, that voice that brought you here today, that wisdom that recognizes these words as truth, that's your higher self guiding you toward freedom. You don't have to see the whole path ahead to take the first step. You don't have to know exactly what your life will look like on the other side of this choice. You just have to trust that you're worth more than what you've been accepting. You just have to believe that love should add to your life, not subtract from it. The strength you need is already within you. It's the same strength that survived whatever brought you to this point. It's the same resilience that got you through every difficult day. It's the same wisdom that recognizes truth when you hear it. You don't need to find this strength somewhere else. You need to trust the strength that's already yours. As you walk away from what breaks you and toward what heals you, know that you're not just changing your own life. You're changing the lives of everyone who loves you and wants to see you happy. You're modeling for other women what it looks like to choose yourself. You're breaking patterns that might have been passed down through generations. You're becoming an ancestor that future generations will thank. Your life is a precious gift, and you are the guardian of that gift. No one else gets to decide how it should be lived, what you should accept, what standards you should have. You get to choose. And today, right now, you get to choose love, real love, starting with the love you give to yourself. The person who broke you doesn't get to define your worth. The mistakes you've made don't get to determine your future. The fears that whisper, "What if this is the best it gets?" don't get to make your decisions for you. You get to choose, and you are wise enough, strong enough, and worthy enough to choose well. Never return to someone who already broke you, not because you're being unforgiving, but because you're being wise. Not because you don't believe in second chances, but because you believe in yourself enough to demand better. Not because you're giving up on love, but because you're finally understanding what love really is. You are worthy of love that doesn't break you. You are deserving of relationships that make you feel more like yourself, not less. You are enough, exactly as you are, and anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve access to your beautiful heart. Trust yourself. Trust your journey. Trust that the universe has something infinitely better waiting for you on the other side of this brave choice. Your future self is waiting, and she is so proud of the courage you're showing right now. Go forward with love, with wisdom, with unshakable knowledge of your own worth. The best chapters of your life are still being written, and you, magnificent, resilient, worthy you, get to be the author.